Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations That Matter. Nice one. Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations That Matter. This is our second episode, and we thought that we would just share some stories with you that are going to illustrate the points that we made last time in regards to the parent-child relationship and the role of the parent. Mm-hmm. And more specifically, what I'm going to try and do is ask you, Jacko, sort of almost be the devil's advocate, so we can sort of share, I guess, how we've navigated it, and then I'd love to get your insights into if it was different, if we had a different approach, how would that feel for you? What effect would that have on you as an individual? What effect would that have on the relationship that we share, your view with us as parents?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
Because like we spoke about, this really is just about what are the things that are going to make the biggest difference in connecting and strengthening the bond that parents and kids share, rather than fracturing it and dividing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we spoke about last time, you said that it was incredibly important to feel as a kid and as a tween and a teenager that you were guided and that we were your mentors. We were here to support you. We were here to teach to be with you when we were by your side. So what else about that have you noticed, or what else about that would you like to share or expand on?
Well, I think it allows sort of me as the kid to be more open with you guys, in terms of whatever that might be, sharing stuff with you guys. I think that comes down to a lot of trust and that teaching and the mentoring stuff.
Because what I notice is that, and I certainly have been guilty of this from time to time, is that I think we've got a lot of expectations to know what to do, to know how to behave, to know what to say in certain situations, to know what is the best way forward or what not to do, you know what I mean? Whereas actually, you just don't, like you said, you're just kind of busy being a kid trying to kind of navigate being on this earth for the first time.
Yeah, and exactly right. And the same thing with the parent, right?
Yeah.
We're all just doing this for the first time, and I think, like we were sharing, we talked about before, like I feel like it's sometimes important to take sort of a third point of view or a step back. I know I've done that with mates or something, or at footy or coaching stuff. Like just taking a step back and just sort of actually really sort of, reading and realising what's going on, putting yourself in their shoes. Resolve it in the kindest and most effective way possible, so that it can sort of reach everyone's best interest, essentially.
And I think, what I've noticed, and it's kind of a generational thing as well, is that a lot of people that I work with, certainly for myself, we haven't had that model to us. That wasn't the way that we were brought up. That was not the way we were parented. It was quite harsh punishments. We sort of just potentially, went along assuming we were sort of doing the right thing, and then we'd get slammed or get shouted at and we feel a lot of shame, and it was just incredibly tense. And then we've got to have compassion for our parents, because they only knew, what they knew at the time and had the resources that they had available to them.
similarly for their parents, you know, sort of a lot of the post-war, there was a lot of incredible stress, you know, so I think we're now coming into this time where there's an incredible amount of resources out there to help parents to not only digest their past and heal and grow and evolve towards the people they want to be and the parents they want to be, but also around this parenting thing, how the way that we do things as parents affects the growth and development of, you know, of our kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, I distinctly remember a time when you were just away. Dad and I went up to stay with friends near Byron Bay, and I remember having you in the little couch. I was breastfeeding you, and then I had you in the little couch. And the friends that we went with, they had like a little 4-year-old son at the time, and I think he was out kicking the ball or something like that, and with a couple of other friends' kids or whatever, and he must have done something. I can't quite remember what he did, but I distinctly remember the dad kind of coming in and just sort of getting down to his level and saying, "Look, well, I just need to have a chat." Something kind of went on, and so he just sort of get inside and popped him up on the fence and just, you know, had a little chat to him. I could just see it from a distance. Jack, honestly, it was the first time that I had seen it done, parenting done in such a beautiful, respectful, kind way. And yet he was still holding the line. He was teaching, he was guiding, he was mentoring. Your back foot crossed a boundary. It's fun to bowling. Just got to pop your back inside the lane here.
Yeah.
But it was just done in such a respectful way, and it was the first time it almost brought me to tears. And I said to Dave, "Did you see that?
Yeah,
that's incredible." You know, and so, you know, like it's really interesting to look back on our time, like afraid for being parents is the very first time and moving through your parenting journey to sort of see what things have impacted us, and that was definitely one for me. And I thought to myself in that moment, I want to be that. I want to be like that for my kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. I don't know how to do that just yet, but I'm hoping that as I can sort of extend to that and think, well, how can I support myself
what an awesome
that?
thing to sort of witness so early on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so you had a story about when we were living in Sydney.
Living in Sydney. I remember I bought one of those little cap guns from like the local news agency or something, and I was just mucking around with it.
How old? What year were you in?
I'm still primary school, I reckon. Probably year 4, year 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't a bit old. I reckon it. Yeah. We just moved there, I reckon, and probably year 4, year 5.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and I was mucking around with it, whatever. Like they make a big pop sound, whatever. I was having the time of my life. Anyway, we had mates over, like friends over, family friends, and I just remember like walking up, like, "Oh, g'day Dad, what's going on?" Whatever, and like I sort of just jokingly like pointed the gun at like this guy's face, like just as a joke, and like it made a good pop sound and whatever. And Dad was like, "You know, you can't just do that, mate. You can't walk up and point a gun at a guy's head like we do." Our friend got over.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, well, I didn't think it was that bad. Like,
okay.
No.
Yeah. So you genuinely didn't realise that's not something.
I sort of realised after, I was like, well, I guess so. But I obviously didn't think it in the moment. Like, I was like mucking around.
Yeah.
But I think like the way that Dad said, it's like, mate, we don't just walk up and do that kind of stuff. But you did it in the moment, right? Like you say, mate, we don't do that.
Yeah.
They go up to our friend there.
Right.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sorry about that, mate.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I did end up, I just said, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise, right?
Yeah, of
and I think
course.
that's just a thing as a kid
Yeah.
that you just, you don't really think about.
Yeah.
And that's the teaching element, I think. Maybe it's about to say this, but I think on the flip side of that,
Yes.
I think, the way that made me feel was, I was like, oh, it made me think about it. Obviously, I still remember it to this day.
Yes.
Split moment, but I remember thinking, oh, that's fair enough. And I remember saying sorry to him and whatever, but I was like, I realised I shouldn't have done that sort of thing. But then I went with my dad, right? But I think in that moment, me being dad, have a go at me or something, or have a real good, or just pull me aside and make a real big deal out of it. Yeah. And pull me a little bit. Or do it there, for example. I think I would feel a whole great deal of shame, and I probably would have run off, and it probably would have ruined the rest of the day. Yeah. And I would have been real shy later on. Oh, this is just. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I would have been really sort of angry as well. I think at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because I always like to reflect on, our actions as parents and how that made you feel as an individual.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that how would have either the yelling or the potential harsh punishment or calling you out quite harshly in front of our friends, how would that have made you feel about yourself?
I think it just would have made me just feel like an idiot, really. And I just would have been quite annoyed, I think, and just angry.
Yeah.
I would have thought that it would have been quite unfair.
Yeah.
Me being me, I think I would have been like, I would have gone to my mum and I would have gotten quite upset about it all.
Yeah. I would have gone people would have on to those feelings, those big feelings and emotions, and not have anywhere to just sort of express that and felt bad about yourself and
sorry. I think that's it would have been, if dad, for example, parents that way, that would prevent a division between us.
So that's my next question, I guess. Is okay, so how would that have impacted on the relationship that you shared with dad?
I think it would have just been if that sort of style kept going and kept continuing. I think it would have been. I don't know. I feel we may have had quite an awkward relationship, possibly. Just one with no bond and sort of clashing heads all the time. I feel, and that he doesn't understand. He doesn't get it, whatever else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And it was just such a small thing, and Dad handled it perfectly for me. Thank you. I think it's things like that can lead to such bigger things, and it just doesn't have to be, that way.
Yeah.
And sorry, but I think parents are obviously coming from, we're all coming from the same point of trying to get the best outcome, right?
Yeah.
And sort of, trying to work with each other, and that response of both responses come from a teaching and a guidance and a mentoring point of view.
Yeah.
But it's just about seeing the effect and what it can possibly create.
Yes.
And it doesn't, let's say it doesn't have to, I feel like it doesn't have to be that hard, because you're making it harder for yourself if Dad was to pull me aside and make a real big deal out of it, or if it's something else.
Yeah.
you know, something like that.
Absolutely, and I think that that's where, you know, as parents, we really take responsibility for what we're putting into a relationship, because, you know, yeah, we are only guided by what we have been brought up with in the past and our mentors. And in saying that, that doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement and for us to develop and grow and evolve as, you know, as we navigate this journey. And back to that perfection piece, as parents, I think that we've all snapped, we've all got angry, we've all regretted shit we've done and said and all things.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about those sort of one-off times or the things that happen occasionally like that, where we lose our cool or lose our shit or don't handle things in the way that we really would have liked to have. It's about doing that, like you said, each and every time. If that's consistently what happens when you do something like that, and maybe you make a mistake or you don't know, and that's how you're disciplined, then you can see how that kind of style just over time divides.
Yeah.
And so whereas when you've got a bonded, connected relationship that is built on trust and respect and kindness,
Yeah.
that do absolutely have those guardrails, when those things do happen, then it's less likely to have a really sort of damaging, you know, impact.
And I've seen it, like, and I've heard it before with people at school and stuff, and mates and whatnot. But just even the littlest things like that, or yeah, obviously other scenarios. But yeah, just the way that, you know, if they're on the phone, like, like, you know, it's just like, oh god, like, it's just so harsh. And I was like, often I remember just like, it's just such a small thing that it doesn't even matter. And you know, the parent or the mum or the dad's having to go at the kid, and it's just a clash of heads over something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just over something like, I don't know, like, didn't lock the front door when they left the house. You're like, no, I just remember thinking like, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it doesn't have to be that hard for the relationship, right? If you just go from a different angle or way of approaching those, yeah, it just makes it so much easier, I feel.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, what you spoke about in regards to the openness and the honesty and the communication piece, you know, I think that it's really important for the parents to take responsibility to kind of approach those things when you know that it's getting off track. You know, like, when you notice that the relationship between you is just really a bit fractured and you're not communicating really at all, and it just feels like you're a bit lost and you are at loggerheads. It's really easy to kind of just sort of go on, and I think it's really important for us to take responsibility as parents to kind of address that and go, you know what, this is all really hard at the moment, and I noticed that, you know, I have noticed that just over the last little while we've seen to there's a better greater divide between us, you know, so just to be the one that takes responsibility for the elephant in the room and for attempting to lead with our hearts and come in and say, you know, like, we're just an absolute each other's throats. What can we do? What's gone wrong? What am I not doing? What I'm sorry if I miss stuff. You know, yeah, I've noticed that, and that is more than likely to open the door for the child to sort of say, well, yeah, I've just completely felt hassled, or I just feel like don't. But we cannot ever expect the child to come and do that to us and to open up the door and to open up that conversation and to take responsibility, because that's not their role. That's not their role.
No,
And you know, from what I'm hearing you say is that we all want a peaceful household. We all want a peaceful relationship. We all want to feel connected to our parents. And to have that beautiful sense that when we come home to the nest, you know, that it's strong, that it's safe, and that it's also soft and it's nourishing and it's supportive.
Yeah,
Who
definitely.
doesn't want that? You know?
Yeah, exactly right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we thought we'd share another example that could have gone in two ways.
Yep.
So this is again around the same time.
Yeah. Year 6.
Year 4, I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
Year
Year 4,
4
living in
first
Sydney.
year, just moved to Sydney.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. And so you were trying to establish friendships. I think this was potentially towards the end of term 1 or term 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
Like I had a solid. Yeah, I had mates.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, the group of mates and I was.
Yeah. I came to pick you guys up from school, and your teacher at the time, or you actually came out to me with a and I'm like, shit, what's happened here? And you come out and said, oh, this is whatever needs to have a chat to you. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, sort of like give me some intel, what's going on kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, jeepers, she's not happy. And you're like, nah, she's not happy. Yep, and you were right. Steam was coming out of her ears, all her veins on her neck like this. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, what have you done?
Yeah.
So anyway, she was explaining that she had had a few issues with young Jacko over the last couple of weeks, and that she tried a number of things and that nothing was really working. So we'd done, I had like a bloody star sticker.
But what was it though? Like I was.
You were being really quite disruptive in class, and that when you were asked to be quiet and to sort of settle down, that you just weren't. You were being you just weren't sort of, able to settle. And what she was worried about was that you were actually bringing, half the classroom with you. So,
I remember that,
she was really cross, and I think she was at her wit's end, and she had from there threatened to take you out of the football team. She said, I know how much you like football, I'm at my end. We need to sort something out. And and from the reason I'm sharing this, the reason we're sharing this story is because it's got quite a few of the elements of the parent-child relationship that we have spoken about, and also some additional ones. So she had no idea how we kind of operated as a family, and that I'm sure she gets a lot of parents in there that are kind of just like, hey, this is not even my issue. You go and you deal with my son when he's at school. But I said to her, look, I take this very seriously, and I can really see how this has upset you, and you're actually quite angry. So I tried to sort of validate her feelings, and I said that I'm gonna put in a request and ask you to give us a few days to just sort of sort this out. I said, and I asked that you refrain from any kind of punishment just at the moment until we get to the bottom of this, and I promise you that we will come back and have another meeting with you once I've spoken to Jack. So I kind of felt like I needed to really be his advocate in that moment, because she was just going to kind of strip everything away and go into the harsh punishments. And knowing you, as we know our children very well, Jack really, you still do get yours back up when you're not given the opportunity to sort of have your say or
give it a
think
fair-
that it's not a fair opportunity. So anyway, she did that and said, "Rightio." Kind of, I don't give a shit what you do, but just send him back and sort it out, kind of thing. So it happened to be on an evening that my daughter had gymnastics.
Yep.
So I was, we picked up her, and I just said to you, I can't speak to you just about this at the moment. Just give me some space, because this teacher was actually quite full on, and I felt. It was just strong. She had really strong energy, and I was sort of rocking up to school, time to pick you up. I wasn't expecting this, and I hadn't prepared for it, and I kind of was caught on the hop. It also did tap into big feelings for myself in regards to a bit of like, we just moved to Sydney. It's like, shit, my kid's struggling. He's being disruptive. This is not working. Something's going on. So I was kind of worried from my heart, and my mother heart was kind of going, "Are you okay? It's not a little like it." Given that this is the business that I run and that I teach and I mentor and I'm parenting programs, it's kind of like far out. Can't even sort out my own kids, let alone teaching other families how to deal with theirs. So there was a lot of just sort of embarrassment, and my heart was bleeding, and I was just a bit overwhelmed. So I just said to Jack, I can't. You're going to have to give me a minute. I can't speak to you because I know that whatever comes out of my mouth isn't going to be very resourceful. So we were kind of like, you were sort of like, all right, like it was big, wasn't it? Like it was kind of the first time you had any of this.
Yeah, and similar to the other story, like I knew that I'd done something wrong, but I guess I just didn't realise the effects of it all on the teacher.
Yeah.
And you, I was being a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like I just moved to the school. I was just being a little, I was trying to be funny, and
you're just trying to fit in.
Yeah.
So we got to gymnastics, and pretty much just
every time we'd always go to gymnastics, like us, and we'd do homework there or whatever.
Do homework and stuff. This time it was a bit different. We're going to have a chat.
No.
So we wound down the windows, said to Seiji, you go in and do your gymnastics. I'm not coming in to watch tonight.
Yeah.
And the first thing I chose to do was actually ask you what was going on, and because I'd had that time for my emotional attempt to come down and for me to take responsibility to regulate myself, I was in now a position to go, all right, mate, I want to hear from you. What's going on? What's happening? Kind of thing. Yeah. Do you remember what you said?
No.
So, we sort of played around with it a little bit, but it was essentially that at the very core of it, you were needing to feel like you belonged.
Yeah.
To feel like you
just trying to be funny.
You fit in.
Is that what I said?
So you said so I said, what I've heard from Miss Dewey is that you're a bit disruptive in class. What's that all about? And you were kind of like, I've started to make these jokes. And the kids think they're funny. The kids think I'm funny.
Yeah.
Kids think I'm funny. And you know what I love the most about that? You said, it feels really good when they laugh. It's like my heart's bleeding in the car going, oh my God.
That's so funny.
So of course you want to keep on doing that.
Yeah.
Of course you're like, far out, man, I'm a bloody comedian.
Good, yeah. Come on.
And so it was meeting your need. That behaviour was meeting your need for you to belong and for you to feel part of something, and that you were that you fitted in, which is a massive core human need.
Yeah, and I think that teacher, just on reflection, I can't remember that well, but we had. I remember us having quite a good relationship.
Yes.
As in, she was super hard enough, and if anyone stepped out of line, they're gonna be confident and stuff like that. But also, I remember having quite good banter with her
Yeah.
about footy that I don't think she had with any of the other kids.
Ah, interesting.
So I felt quite a connection to her.
Yes.
Not a big one, but I felt that I could just be myself and that we sort of understood each other and yeah. So I think that possibly had a little bit to do with me sort of, trying to be funny and doing all this stuff and stepping out of line in class because I thought, we've like being her, we've just got we're real.
So I can do that in class.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So we kind of got to the root cause of the behaviour, and and I have a lot of compassion for that. And we spoke about the fact that it's sometimes hard when you move to a new place and you feel like you need to fit in and all of that thing. And so then you were quite upset at the fact that you had that this behaviour had not upset necessarily, but kind of had made her a bit cross, and that she is a bit of a loss to know what to do with kind of thing. So you wanted to write some things down in a bit of a structured way that made her, to try and let her know that you weren't doing it on purpose.
Yeah, I didn't want to feel like sort of like the odd one out in the class that's going to be getting that's
A naughty kid.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't obviously want that put on me.
Yeah.
And obviously we didn't go into this after we finished the story, but I think that was my learning and my experience in that class more.
Yeah.
If that was what was happening, if footy got taken away from me and stuff like that, I think that would have. But anyway, we can talk about that a little bit more after.
Yeah. So so I guess we sort of came to a bit of an agreement together to kind of like, all right, I really understand, and I was really wanting to validate your feelings and how you were sort of behaving in order to get this need met, and what can we do about it, because this can't go on, and we're being disrupting with whatever else. So we went back to her, I think, the next day or two and spoke to her about it, and she said, look, we've had a chat about it. These are the reasons why. And you sort of spoke to her and just said, look, I'm sorry, I had no idea that it was having this sort of an effect. And, I just thought I was funny, and the boys thought it was pretty good. And then what I can remember from it is that you were kind of tracking along okay for about a week, and then there was a bit of there was another incident. And so we sort of had the same strategy again. It was like, all right, mate, what's happening now? And you were like, I can't seem to stop. Like I kind of get on a roll and there's all these laughs and whatever. And what I'm noticing is that I can't actually stop. Because it feels too good, and then we're all in the bloody laughing and all of the things, and so you said, like, what I feel I need is actually to go and be able to sit somewhere else separately and just kind of take myself away and create a circuit breaker for myself. And that you were very adamant that you didn't want that to be the naughty chair, and where the naughty kids sat, it was like, okay, if I am choosing to take responsibility for myself and try and manage this, then I need you to be my advocate here and set this up for me and tell the kids this is the naughty seat, and anyone else who wants to go and sit there and have the same experience. Great, like it's there for everyone who needs it, And she was actually quite impressed with that. Like, she was sort of really happy to work with us and do whatever it
she
took.
was. I remember her being very good.
Yeah, she was, and it's like, and that just goes to show us all that there's ways that we can do this. If every party involved is willing to move towards each other and a solution, and like you said, for a couple of facts of curiosity about how we could figure this out and on the underlying reasons for why this is happening, then there's just such a beautiful opportunity for solutions that meet everyone's needs.
Yeah. I quite distinctly remember her standing up in front of the class and explaining it all.
Oh, thanks.
I remember her saying, look, this seat at the front. Whatever, I can't obviously remember what she said specifically, but yeah, we've got this seat at the front. Whatever, it's for like anyone that thinks that they need just a little bit of space, or sometimes if I think that you can, or whatever it was.
Yep.
And I think I remember her pointing it out just like that and just leaving it and then not putting it on me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Jack is doing this at the start. And then I think we sort of just had a thing where like she just looked at me and should I think it's hard time? Yeah. And I spent the whole week there in the next couple of weeks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I sort of knew that I was like, okay, like I've sort of done this and I'm sort of trying to double down. Did it the next week, didn't really work, and then I'm like, oh, you've tried it again, no good.
Yeah.
And then I don't have that. I better just bloody, alright.
Let's sort myself out.
Yeah. And it was good.
I
It was
love
good.
that
It
so
lasted.
much.
And other kids did use it as well. Like
Did
I
they?
remember, yeah, there was a few other kids that.
Yeah.
And then it sort of just faded out, and like year 4 ended, and we just went on with it.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's such a great story, and I think that
you learnt some stuff about yourself. That's I think the key thing here is that space that I guess Fiona and I created for you, that container of non-judgment and safety that we created for you, enabled you to gather those insights from within yourself. You know, because I think that sometimes where parents get tripped up is we think that we need to kind of tell our kids everything, and that they're not going to learn anything themselves, and that we need to get in there before they stuff something up, or they're not going to know, so we better bloody, tell them or give them the learnings. And what I've noticed from parenting you guys from birth to 19 years is that when we provide that space, that you guys actually do work it out.
Yeah.
And I think that is then something that you can count on, and it's a reference point for you next time something similar or of that ilk happens. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
So tell me what, just to sort of wrap this up, tell me what the experience would have been like if your teacher acted differently and slammed down and did take you out of the football team.
Yeah.
And punished you and made you an example in front of kids. And if I had have potentially done the same thing.
Yeah.
Harshly punished, not asked you any questions about it, just whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if we paint that picture, it would have been very different, obviously. Her and I, we had a sort of special, that connection over footy. I think that's what it was. So she sort of knew, and that's why she was sort of threatening that.
Okay, so she was you.
Yeah. And I think it just would have created a further division and a dictatorship where I would have thought, this is crap. I wouldn't have learnt, I wouldn't have observed how to deal with things like that.
Right, yes.
Obviously, the letters start to teachers over the years, I feel sorry.
Yeah.
A few multiple letters to the same teacher as well. But I don't think I would definitely wouldn't have learnt and observed how to deal with something like that.
Okay.
When it comes up next time.
Or how your behaviour also impacts others.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think I just would have been angry. Like I said before, I would have seen it as you and Miss Julie working together to punish me, right? Rather than working as a group to sort of resolve this thing that's happening. I think it's like, hey, what's going on? Obviously I'm doing this stuff. Rather than punishing me, and I think taking me out for the footy just would have, that would have have, it would have been, I would have been really saddened by it. And like just everything's against me. When I didn't think that I was doing anything wrong, really. Like I was just trying to have a laugh. I knew obviously that I was doing something wrong and being destructive. But so I think it would have just it would have made it harder for everyone else in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the way that we sort of handled it, yes, it took a bit of time, and a bit more effort, but it resolved it. And we got on with it. Year 4 ended and it went into year 5 and we grew and whatever and like now it's not a laugh about that.
Yeah.
We don't laugh about it like that.
Yeah, well that's
Couple
exactly
months
right.
after.
Well that's exactly right.
And
because she was sort of saying like, that was when you were being a little shit.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like, good one. Yeah, whatever. But I think it would have just created. We wouldn't have been having this chat about it, right? Like it would have been such a different conversation, and it would have been a negative memory for me. And it would have just created the division, I feel, me and you and the teacher. And I wouldn't have returned to having a positive relationship with the teacher. And I would have had a very different outlook on her.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like it was, it could have been very different. And it would have had more effects, I feel, on me and the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
And it would have just placed, I feel, a stereotype on me that I possibly could have carried into later years and later. That I'm the one that's. And I feel like it comes with no resolution as well. Yes, there's a punishment that happens that footy gets taken away from me. I've got this thing that's playing, you're the naughty kid, you're in the corner, you got to do this stuff that's placed on me. And then I could have potentially carried that to later years and home life and whatever. Naughty kid. Other things.
Which means sometimes you actually sort of almost try and live up to that. It's like, well, that's apparently who I am. So this is what,
Yeah, and I feel like that would have really hurt me because I knew that I was the naughty kid.
Yeah.
And I think that would have really, really hurt me deeply to think that other people, especially this teacher, that I had a good bond with. And you guys as well. It would have been really hard to sort of talk about as well, I think, later on. So, it was good.
Yeah.
So good to just, it just seemed like a full circle sort of.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And like obviously it was a negative thing that happened, but it was a positive thing that we learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from that. And just the way to go about it.
Yep.
When stuff like that does come up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was definitely a solution that came from that, and I feel like with the other way that yes, it seemed like there was a solution to it, but not really. I feel like there was a lot of holes that would have happened.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there potentially might not have been the learning that dropped in for all the insights and wisdom that came through because of the discussion and the openness and non-judgment. And also like it then made me sort of think to myself, okay, it's been a really big adjustment for us as a family to move our whole life interstate. And just to sort of, I guess, have some compassion around that for all of us. That because it's a huge time, and so it's these times have got the potential to take the time to inquire and be curious, to really be very feeling and connective. And I love what you said there, and we'll wrap this up now, but just to finish off, I think that what you were saying in regards to the time and the effort that it takes to be a parent who guides, a parent who teaches, a parent who, mentors, is enormous. And it is more effort, and it does take more time, and it is slower. However, there's just so much goodness that happens, along the way, such as those insights that you gained, the learnings that you gained, the connection that we were able to share, me showing you that I'm on your team, I'm willing to be here. I think that working with, the other stakeholders, and this is how we resolve stuff. And that doesn't happen when you just have the kind of slack down punishment, like you fucked up, let's punish you really harshly, let's shame you in front of everyone, and there's no resolution. And again, all of those feelings that you had about trying to fit in, trying to belong, that it was nice that you were funny, all of those things would have been trapped in your body and had nowhere to be expressed.
Mainly,
For you to have not been able to share that with both myself and your teacher means that they're kept inside.
Yeah.
And so then, that sort of sometimes then leads to outbursts and anger and frustration and all that sort of thing, if it's held.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, those emotions when they're unresolved. So,
yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Jacko, for sharing all those little insights and just make really good to be very open about this stuff.
Good. Episode 2.
Episode 2. Yes.
Finish.
So, looking forward to seeing you guys next time around. And again, please reach out with any questions or things that you'd like us to cover.
100%.
See you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations That Matter.
Should I get time? Yeah.